I was engaged to someone who appeared to genuinely love me. Yet, the day after I found out I was pregnant, he vanished.
Please, don't look for me.
A note with such words was discovered in the room. Despite my efforts, I couldn't locate him. 7 years went by with no sign of my fiancé. With the support of those close to me, I raised my daughter. Today marks the school's welcome ceremony for my almost 6-year-old. I wished he could witness how much our child has grown. That's what I thought, but I was shocked at my daughter's welcome ceremony. For some reason, there stood my fiancé, who was supposed to have disappeared, dressed in a suit. My name is Marcia Taylor, and I'm 29 years old. I'm an ordinary office worker, and I work hard every day. By the way, I'm a single mother with a 7-year-old daughter named Ruby. Ruby has grown up to be a bright and lovely child, despite being raised by a single parent. She may be a bit spoiled, but that's what makes her charming. However, occasionally she asks about her father after seeing her friends being affectionate with theirs.
Hey, what was Dad like?
I could only smile vaguely back at the question. He was kind and really wonderful. Yeah, I don't have a husband. The day after my pregnancy was discovered, he disappeared. He probably took his own life. For some reason, I had thought that. Yes, until that day. It was 7 years ago. Having just graduated from college, I was having trouble finding a job and was working part-time at a convenience store. That's where I met David, who was also working part-time. David was 8 years older than me and was 30 at the time. He seemed to be looking for a new job because his company had gone bankrupt. He was kind and friendly, patiently teaching me the ropes as I struggled with the unfamiliar work. David, with his comforting demeanor and handsome face, made my heart flutter when he spoke to me. As we worked together, I gradually found myself drawn to him. Perhaps it was the energy of youth, but afterwards I earnestly pursued David. After putting in effort, I was able to start dating David. As our relationship progressed, he started coming over to my apartment frequently. About 3 months into our relationship, David proposed to me. That's when he made this proposal to me.
I want to get married after I've properly secured a new job. Right now I only have income from part-time work, and I don't think your parents will accept me like this.
That might be true. My parents aren't that strict, but they are conservative. They would surely be worried about their daughter marrying a man whose income isn't stable. David declared strongly to me.
I'll definitely find a new job for you. Then let's submit the marriage registration to the city hall. I'll work hard, so please, wait until then.
I replied like this. Of course I'll wait. I'll also support you, so do your best in your job search. I hope you find a job soon. I believed in David and sincerely supported his job search, without realizing that it was a mistake. David mentioned he wanted to prioritize his job search, hence he decided to leave his part-time position at the convenience store. I myself continued working part-time while supporting him. If he expressed a need for financial support during his job hunt, I was more than willing to cover expenses like transportation costs. Looking back now, there were several things that seemed unnatural. David never stayed overnight at my apartment, always returning to his own. I suggested living together to him multiple times, but he refused, saying living together is only after a formal marriage. Furthermore, David did not want me to come to his apartment. I want to go to your apartment too.
No, it's better if you don't come. I'm bad at tidying up, and it's really stressful for me.
Is that so? Doesn't bother me at all, though. If you want, should I help you tidy up the room?
It's okay. Besides, I'm already causing trouble for you with my job search. Before we move in together, I'll make sure to develop a better habit of organizing and tidying up.
Each time I expressed a desire to go to his house, the conversation was always left ambiguous like this. Come to think of it, I only knew his name and phone number and nothing else about him. Despite that, I didn't feel uncomfortable in that situation. I trusted David so much. I I never imagined that things would turn out like this. At that time, I couldn't have imagined it. I was waiting for David to find a new job, but the situation became urgent. Since mysterious health problems persisted, I went to the hospital and found out that I was pregnant with David's child. I was quite surprised, but there was also joy in being pregnant with the child of the person I loved. Surely David would also be happy about the pregnancy. That's what I thought, but the situation took an unexpected turn. When I told David about the pregnancy, he turned pale and started trembling.
No way. Pregnant? It can't be true. What should I do?
Seeing David's panicked state, I was perplexed. Instead of being happy, he was clearly bewildered by my pregnancy. In fact, he seemed to dislike it. Huh? What do you mean? Aren't you happy about the pregnancy? Pressed by me, David looked startled. He coughed and apologized to me.
I must have given you the wrong impression. I'm actually happy about the pregnancy. But you see, I still haven't found a job. And when it comes to having a child, I think you'll have various concerns too.
I agreed with what David said. Certainly having a child would entail various expenses. It's okay, I'll work too, so let's work hard together. Encouraged by this, David awkwardly smiled at me.
Yeah, I understand. I'll also prepare myself and do my best. For now, let's at least submit the marriage registration form. I'll go get it from the city office.
However, David didn't return to me that day. The next day I received a long email from David on my phone.
I'm sorry. Actually, I have debts. If we get married like this, it will bring unhappiness to you, Marcia, and the child in your belly. Please, don't look for me. I'm going to the mountains to take personal responsibility. So, please, give up on the child. Goodbye.
When I read the email, I was blindsided. Was this some kind of mistake? I thought that way as I reread the email multiple times, but the content remained the same. I tried to contact him on his phone in a panic, but I couldn't get through at all. Why? What does he mean by debts? Mountains? Responsibility? Could it be... Did David take his own life in the mountains? I panicked at the worst possible scenario. I thought about reporting it to the police, but I realized that I didn't know anything about him. I asked about David at my workplace, but he seemed to have only been doing short-term jobs without needing a resume, so I couldn't find out much. Nevertheless, I managed to find out his address, and with a desperate feeling I went there, only to find it was just an empty lot. Did he deliberately keep quiet because he had debts and didn't want to trouble me? What about the child in my belly? I could do nothing but be dumbfounded by the sudden separation from David. After much hesitation, I couldn't bring myself to give up on the child in my belly, so I returned to my parents' rural home to give birth. I told my parents the truth about David. They were surprised that I was pregnant, but they didn't blame me. Even after giving birth, they helped me in various ways and doted on their granddaughter, Ruby. Afterward, I worked hard to find a job and eventually got employed at a certain company. Just because I was a single mother didn't mean I wanted to subject us to poverty. With that determination, I persevered. Now I work as an employee near my parents' home, living with Ruby. Receiving love from me and my parents, Ruby has grown up healthily. Though she's a bit of a tomboy, she's grown into a kind child who cares about her friends. 7 years had passed since the sudden parting with David. Ruby, now 6 years old, was having her elementary school welcome ceremony today. She was looking forward to starting elementary school. While I felt happy seeing Ruby's excitement, there was also a sense of loneliness. I wished David could see how much she's grown, but it's too late now. However, I was about to witness a shocking sight at the welcome ceremony venue. There, in his suit, was the man who was supposed to be my husband. Or rather, I should say, the man who was supposed to be David. In the 7 years that had passed, he had gained quite a bit of weight, and his appearance had changed, but his face remained the same. Surely it must be him. Next to David stood an unfamiliar woman and a boy who appeared to be about the same age as Ruby. They seemed unaware of our presence. The boy wore an adorable suit and smiled as he spoke to David and the woman. It seemed that he was also starting school. I was left stunned by the sudden turn of events. What on earth is going on? Who is the woman and the boy next to him? To be precise, I had already realized the true identity of the woman and the boy, but my brain was refusing to comprehend it. I wanted to confront David, but causing a commotion amidst the crowd of new students was out of the question. Suppressing my anxious feelings, I quietly moved away to observe David and the others. They seemed to be enjoying themselves. After a while, David went out to smoke, leaving an opportunity for me to approach the woman who was with him. "Nice to meet you. Is your child starting school?"
Oh, yes, that's right. My son is starting school.
I see. Actually, my daughter is also starting school. Maybe they'll be classmates. Do you live around here? I don't think we've met before, but is it because our children went to different kindergartens? With such a greeting, the woman who introduced herself as Jasmine seemed to relax and open up to me. According to her story, they had just moved due to her husband's job transfer. Her son was starting elementary school in this unfamiliar area, so she seemed nervous. The boy David and Jasmine were carrying was the result of fertility treatments. I also heard about David in conversation with her. She mentioned that after the company he initially worked for went bankrupt, he struggled to find another job. During that time, they also had difficulty conceiving a child. So he worked at a convenience store for a while, before eventually being able to join Jasmine's uncle's company. Around that time, they found out about Jasmine's pregnancy, and she gave birth a while later. In other words, David had been dating me while being with Jasmine. To make matters worse, he even proposed to me, making promises of marriage despite being unable to fulfill them. Later, when he found out about my pregnancy, he ran away. He acted as if I and Ruby didn't exist and lived carefree in another place. The story I heard from her was so shocking that my clenched fists trembled uncontrollably. A few minutes later, David returned to Jasmine. His eyes were wide open when he sees me smiling next to him. It seemed like he remembered me. "Long time no see. You look well, don't you?" When I greeted him, David turned pale.
Why are you here?
"It's my daughter Ruby's welcome ceremony. What a coincidence. Attending the same elementary school? Well, can't do anything about that."
Ugh.
Jasmine, looking puzzled at our interaction, asked David.
Do you know each other?
Ignoring David, who seemed uncomfortable, I spoke to Jasmine. "It's sudden, but could we talk after the welcome ceremony? There's something important about him that I need to discuss." Jasmine seemed perplexed by my proposal, but eventually agreed. After the welcome ceremony, we decided to meet at a nearby cafe. To spare the children from any turmoil, we had entrusted them to our respective families. At the cafe, Jasmine, David, and I gathered. I decided to cut to the chase without beating around the bush. "Jasmine, I'll be straightforward. 7 years ago, I was in a relationship with your husband, David, who lied to me about being single." Jasmine froze at my words, and David's face tensed up. Without pause, I continued. "After I got pregnant, David disappeared from my life. My daughter Ruby is David's child." As I said this, David hastily interjected.
No, it's not like that. We did work at the same part-time job, but she was just a co-worker. We weren't dating, and I didn't do anything to have a child with her. Why would you lie about this? Even if it's a joke, it's malicious.
At this point, it seems David still intends to evade responsibility. If you're serious about that, I have something in mind as well. I took out something from my pocket. It was a photo of David and me during our dates and when he visited my apartment. We were embracing and getting close, so to a third party, it would only seem like we were lovers. Indeed, Jasmine was staring at the photo. Even after David left, I couldn't let go of the photos we took together because I still have feelings for him. It's ironic that they're useful in this way. I said in a fierce expression to Jasmine, "What do you think of this?" I have also saved other text messages and email correspondence with David. If you want, you can have Ruby and David's DNA tested. When I said this, David finally seemed to resign himself. He finally admitted to the fact that he had been cheating on me. During the time we worked together, David apparently accumulated stress from being unemployed and unable to have children with Jasmine. So in his youth, he succumbed to temptation and had a relationship with me. We continued that relationship, but when David finally found a job and Jasmine became pregnant, he tried to end the affair. However, my pregnancy threw David into a panic. It was difficult to break up cleanly like this, and if he acted clumsily, there was a risk of Jasmine finding out about the affair. So David lied to me, who was pregnant, and disappeared. After hearing David's story, Jasmine shook violently and slapped him hard.
You've got to be kidding me. After I've been supporting you desperately since you were unemployed, you go and cheat on me? And on top of that, you deceived a girl 8 years younger than you, get her pregnant, and then run away? What a shameless scumbag.
With a furious expression, Jasmine yelled at David. David, trembling, apologized to her. The situation quickly turned chaotic. To avoid causing a scene in the cafe, I decided to calm Jasmine down and tell David what I wanted to say. I won't say anything more about being deceived by you. I was foolish to be deceived. However, you will pay compensation for deceiving me and for Ruby's upbringing. David was flustered by my words.
What? It's going to be tough. I'm going to need a lot of money for my son from now on.
If you hadn't deceived me, we wouldn't be having this conversation, would we? Don't act all high and mighty after betraying your wife and child. Though David seemed to protest, I ignored him and apologized to Jasmine. I'm sorry for not knowing and unintentionally getting involved with your husband. If you wish, I will pay compensation, but Ruby is not at fault. If you want to blame someone, blame me alone. Upon hearing those words, Jasmine said,
Don't apologize.
In fact, she apologized to me instead.
You're not at fault at all. In fact, you're also a victim who was deceived by David. It's outrageous to go after a young girl like that. I won't demand compensation from you, and I won't cause any trouble for your daughter, so rest assured. I was grateful for Jasmine's generosity. At the same time, I felt even more contempt for David, who betrayed such a wonderful person. David kept whispering,
I'm sorry.
And,
Please forgive me.
Until the end, crying. Afterwards, David and Jasmine divorced, and she took their son and returned to her parents' house. David found it difficult to work at Jasmine's uncle's company and resigned. He was sued by me and Jasmine for alimony and child support at the same time. David then borrowed money from an unsavory place and paid the alimony and child support. It seems like David is now out there in the freezing cold waters of the Atlantic somewhere, doing some grueling crab fishing. It will probably take decades to pay off all his debts. On the other hand, I've started anew, living with Ruby. I was quite depressed when I found out that David had deceived me, but I decided to change my mind for the sake of my daughter. Actually, I'm feeling pretty positive now, thinking it's a good thing I didn't marry such an unfaithful guy. I plan to tell my daughter about David when she grows up. That's what I'm thinking now. Ruby is full of smiles every day saying,
I enjoy elementary school.
I will do my best from now on for my daughter.